It's a Tuesday night and we've been reviewing all the Buffy series the last 7 weeks, and now we're gonna rank them. Hey there, welcome to another Tuesday Terror edition of the Sunday Scaries. I'm excited to be ranking all the seasons of Buffy after reviewing all 7 seasons. Again, this is one of my favorite series of all time. Really, it's my favorite series of all time, and I just adore every season for the most part, and I'm really excited to finally rank them. And I've really spent a lot of time thinking about the order of worst to best as far as the quality of each season. And again, as I've said in many of my reviews, I don't think there's a truly bad season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but there are definitely some seasons that work better and definitely some that are worse. And I'm also excited this is my first ranking video ever on the Sunday Scaries, and I hope there's many more to come. But with that said, let's hop right into our rankings of all 7 seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And kicking off our list in the 7th spot, you know, I really thought long and hard about this, and this might surprise you based off my reviews, but I gotta put Buffy season 1 in last place. And my main reason for putting it in last, even though it pains me, and this is not my least favorite necessarily, but I do think it's the least quality, is it's only got 12 episodes, which, you know, all the other seasons would have 22. So that right there kind of puts it at a little bit of disadvantage as far as there's just not as much material to go in depth. You know, it was a new show, people were kind of finding their footing and their roles. And you see growing pains early on in this season where the actors are really trying to figure out their characters and figure out the overall tone of Buffy, even though I think it's still a really good season and I love the kind of simplicity of the original season. But it also has aged the most poorly as far as just the way it was edited and the overall film quality. And if I'm being objective and I was showing the show for the first time to a new viewer, I think this is the one they'd struggle with the most to connect with, and it would be kind of the one they'd have to kind of slug through, especially the filler episodes. But again, I do love this season as a whole, and I love the final episode of the season, Prophecy Girl. I think that's one of the best episodes, probably top 10 in the whole series. And coming in at number 6 is actually season 6 of Buffy. And you know, this is by far the season I revisit the least. I just think it's a very depressing season as a whole. And there's just some things in it that are really hard for me to watch. I don't love Willow struggling with her magic use and kind of having this drug addict kind of thing going on with magic. You know, Buffy coming back from heaven and being tormented is really, really hard to watch. You know, Spike sexually assaulting Buffy is not an easy scene to watch, and one I always fast forward even if I watch that episode, just because it's so hard and difficult to watch. So there's a lot of lows in this season. With that said, there are some cool things that did come out of it. You do have the musical episode, Once More with a Feeling, and that was a really creative way to put a musical in a relatively serious toned show. And I do love the whole concept that Buffy went to heaven when she died at the end of season 5, and that she was completely at peace. And you know, I think that is a really deep concept you can dive into that we discussed in my season 6 review. But as a whole, this is the season that it's kind of a grind for me to get through, just in terms of it's depressing, and it's the one I would come back to the least as far as if I'm in the mood to watch Buffy and want to get some of it on its high notes. And coming into our 5th spot is actually Buffy season 4. I know this is the one that a lot of people probably have dead last the most, though it probably does flip-flop a little bit between season 1, season 6, and season 4. Though actually what I do love about this series, I've seen people even have season 7 ranked last. You know, it's very wide range depending on the way you view this show. But season 4 to me is the messy middle, since it's literally the season right in the middle of all 7. And it did have that struggle and transition to leave high school and go to college. And, you know, Riley is not the most lovable love interest for Buffy. He definitely has his faults. You know, Adam is kind of a weak big bad as a whole. There are a couple really weird, cringeworthy episodes like Beer Bad. But then you get some of the best episodes in the series. Hush is an absolutely amazing episode, amazing piece of film. Maybe my favorite episode in the whole series, even though it's not the one that dives the most into the overall plot of the Buffy universe, but what a terrific episode. And I just do love Spike getting a chip in his head and the quirkiness of some of the characters as they're kind of evolving as they leave high school and go into college. So, you know, I think it's still a really fun season, even though it definitely has its flaws. And I actually really like the second to last episode where the initiative has all the demons out and they're all fighting and it's just a madhouse and they're trying to figure out how to take down Adam. I think it's a really good episode. So coming in at number 5 is season 4. And coming into our 4th spot is actually Buffy season 7. And this is another one. It's got a little bit of filler episodes that kind of drag on. You're not really sure where the story is going in certain parts of the season, and it's awkwardly paced at times. But as it's building up, you have some terrific episodes. You have some terrific villains. The big bad being the first evil is such a cool big bad and cool concept. You have the feral vampires, you have Caleb, the demented preacher. They're great villains and a ton of fun to watch Buffy try to figure out how to take down. And also towards the end, you know, you have all the potential slayers helping Buffy. You have Faith coming back, and their whole journey to forgiveness and working together as a team is really neat. And it does have a good finale. I mean, I think the show ended on a very just note to give the show the respect it deserved. The biggest issue is season 5 probably had the best final episode in the whole series, and that would have been probably a little bit better way to end the show. But still, it doesn't take away that this is a great season and they did a good job with it. All right, now we're on our final 3. And I gotta say, all 3 of these seasons, you could flip-flop in any order, and on any given day I probably could feel a little differently about them. But I gotta make a decision for this review, and so this is where I've landed after a lot of thought and reflection on the Buffyverse. So coming in at number 3 is actually Buffy season 5. And I have to say, I think this season definitely is the most bold. Introducing Dawn as Buffy's sister into the Buffyverse after her not being in the first 4 seasons as this mystical key that these monks put these memories of her always having this younger sister into her head and everyone around her's head and everyone in their whole universe's head was really interesting. And the idea that they wanted the Slayer to protect this like purely good entity that is the key from this horrible beast, and Glorificus is a terrific villain. You know, she is so much fun. I mean, I still just love that scene where she's creeping up on Buffy and then they get in a fight and Buffy hits her and she goes, "Oh, you have superpowers? I do too," and like just throws her across the room because she's a god. And, you know, Buffy, even on her best day, cannot actually go toe to toe with her, just given that she's not a god. It is a great season and they did such a terrific job ending Buffy. If she would have died and that would have been her farewell to the universe as they ended it in the season, I mean, I still kind of tear up every time I watch that final episode and see her tombstone at the end. And so I think this was a terrific way to end season 5, and it would have been a terrific way to end the series, but I am glad we got those 2 extra seasons. And as I've said in my past reviews, I think the Buffy seasons work best when they're in high school, so it makes perfect sense that season 2 and season 3 are in the top 2 spots. And after a lot of reflection, and I love them both for different reasons, but the number 2 spot actually goes to season number 2. And this is really where Buffy got an overall more mature tone, the second half, where Angelus loses his soul and becomes the villain, and you have Spike and Drusilla, who are probably the 2 most fun vampires that have ever been on the show, and there's a reason Spike came back as a series regular. But for Buffy to have to fight the man that she loves and sacrifice him to save the world is such an intense storyline. And Angelus probably did more damage in the show than any other villain, which is saying something, did ever in the show. He killed Jenny Calendar and he set up the plot that got a Slayer killed. I mean, you haven't seen that much damage in any other season, that type of loss. I guess in season 7, you know, Anya did die at the end and some of the potential Slayers, but to this degree, it was pretty rough, especially for the second season of the show. And there's just some great bad guys separate from Angelus, Spike, and Drusilla. You have the Judd, ton of fun, some great filler episodes. Xander and Cordelia, you know, discovering their feelings for each other, Willow and Oz. starting to date. I mean, there just was so much that started to snowball in this series, and you know, some of the best Giles lines are also in this season. So season 2 comes in close at the number 2 overall spot, and that means the number 1 spot goes to Buffy season 3. And you know, this is the one I always just come back to over and over again if I'm in the mood for Buffy. I just can't help it. You know, they're seniors in high school. You have the new Slayer, Faith, that comes in, and she's just the polar opposite of Buffy. And, you know, they're trying to coexist and work as a team. And Buffy also kind of has a mirror to see what she could have been like if she had no guidance, since Faith had very little parenting and lost her watcher young. So, you know, you have that whole fun aspect. You have the mayor. I mean, the mayor, he's in the running for best villain in the whole show, and we have a couple I've already mentioned, but you know, he's this guy trying to ascend into this horrible demon, but then at times he's a germaphobe and he's cracking these jokes, and he kind of has this nice guy personality while being terrifically evil at the same time. He's just a terrifically fun villain. You have some of the best filler episodes, like the episode where Xander is going around town on his own little side quest while everyone else is doing their thing, and he gets into all kinds of mayhem. You have the doppelganger episode where, you know, Willow is a vampire and herself at the same time because there's this other universe, and they pull her out. And also the Wish, which you get to see the alternate reality. Those are a ton of fun. You know, and all leading up to the showdown with Faith and Buffy, you know, the graduation day with the mayor. I mean, there's just so many terrific moments in this season, and I really think this captures the best of Buffy firing on all cylinders. And I just love the final scene where, you know, the high school is completely destroyed, and they walk away from graduation day and they're like, hey, we survived high school. Like, you know, it's just absolutely crazy. So season 3 will always, I think, be my favorite, though again, season 2 and season 5, I could see how anyone would put them in the number 1 spot, and all 3 of these could flip-flop, and I would understand why. But anyways, guys, that wraps up our review of the whole Buffy the Vampire series. Leave a comment in the section and let me know, what are your favorite seasons of Buffy and why? Rank them. I'd love to know if you agree with me, disagree with me, and I want to know why. So, you know, this is a terrific show. I know everyone gets a little something different out of it, depending on your personality. But I'd love to see some comments and know what you guys thought about Buffy the Vampire series as a whole. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend turn it on and go through and watch all 7 seasons of Buffy. Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next Sunday Scaries.